About 15 years ago, I remember doing something many of us will do in our professional life. I was sitting with my colleagues trying to figure out how I was going to raise money. And in this case, I was working for a very large life sciences company, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to build a cybersecurity program to protect the company. And back then, it was incredibly difficult. There was no money. Nobody understood the need for cybersecurity. And I remember vividly sitting with them and saying, one of our challenges is that you've never heard the President of the United States say anything about cybersecurity. It didn't exist. It wasn't in the news. Now, today, I almost regret ever thinking that, because today we are inundated with this information about cyber threats. And it doesn't matter if it's the FBI trying to hack your phone, nation states destroying Sony, ransomware, phishing. The news is overwhelming. Now, as a professional, I have to try to separate that news between what is interesting policy decisions we need to make, or where can I make a difference for my company to change the threats. And I suspect for you as individuals, listening to all this news is quite maddening, because it's so much of it. And when you deal with so much of this information and you don't know what to do with it, you tend to ignore it, and that's what we all do. So I want to go through an exercise today to talk about how we can consider where we can make a difference as citizens. So what we're going to talk about is what you want to keep safe and what's important to you from those people you can practically keep it safe from. When I started my career, I was in the Air Force. I was a police officer. My first role was basically as a guard for the F-117 stealth fighter. It was really cool at the time. And the way the military would work is you'd have a series of protocols to get near that aircraft. And my job was to be there and use those protocols to know right from wrong, good from bad, friend from foe. And what I learned very quickly was I loved working Saturday and Sunday night at midnight because it was really easy. At midnight, if anybody showed up, they were probably in the wrong place. It made my job incredibly easy to know right from wrong. But that's not the world, well, we know that's not the world our police officers live in today, right? And it's not the world that we live in as digital citizens in this world. The internet's not really about good or bad or right or wrong. I try to think of it more about like leverage. People are extracting and exchanging values. Some of that is good, some of it is bad, some is legal, some is not. So I try to start this exercise by thinking about who is exchanging value, who is leveraging us as citizens. Now, if you've been working a long time, you remember when they gave you your first computer, it came with a cable lock, right? And that's because the computer was more valuable than any information that came on it. We were worried about the thief stealing your computer. Nobody cared about anything that was sitting on your hard drive. And I remember giving security awareness presentations, and I said, the internet is the wild, wild west. We all need to worry. It's a lawless place, and we can't tell what's going on. That didn't get me any money. Nobody understood that. And then we named our bad guy, the hacker. And I thought, we finally got it. We have a bad guy. We put a name on him. The problem was, we all know that hackers are kids in their basement, sitting in their computer eating Cheetos or something. So that didn't get me any money. Nobody was afraid of them. And those hackers grew up, right? They either became me, or they started working for professional cyber crime organizations. And those groups have extracted a lot of value from us. Today, we read about that with ransomware, phishing attacks. They steal our credentials, our identity information. They've done a pretty good job of leveraging us online. But they're not the only ones. Marketers have done an even bigger job. And what I mean by this are the social media platforms that we share our digital lives with and the online advertisers. They are all in the business of buying and selling information about us, mostly for the purpose to sell us more goods or create more value for themselves. We also don't have to look much further than the most recent political election to see how political parties have leveraged data and the internet world today. While I was watching TV, it looked like every other election. We talked about demographics and regions and states and polling. But what these parties were actually doing was looking at lists of individual Americans and the issues that were important to them and the swayability factor, which was determined by data that we gave up as part of our digital footprint and our sharing of social media online. They looked at us as individuals. Let's face it, it's a relatively small data problem. There's only a few 100 million of us in this country. And somewhere in all of that, we also have nation states. we have to assume that there's a weaponization model to the internet. We haven't seen that as citizens yet. I hope we don't soon. We could debate the curve or capabilities there. So if these are some of the groups that are trying to leverage us, and these are the ones we hear about in the news on a regular basis, next we have to think about what we're going to protect. So the concept of availability is a core tenet of information security, and it's very simple. Is the resource available to you at the time you actually want to use it? So the best way to start this exercise is to say your friends and family are safe, your pets are safe, but your house is burning down. At that moment, as you stand and watch everything you own go up in flames, what are you wishing that you could run in there and save? What is important to you? Now, I know when I thought about this, I used to tell my wife, I have to save my photos, right? Those are my memories put to film and paper. I can't get those back. They're priceless to me. I can buy another couch. That's not really important. And over time, those photos moved from boxes to being on the computer. We scan them, digitize them, and of course, today we take them all through our phones. And I had other things on that computer, my financial information, documents, wills, contracts, mementos, things that were important to me. And so it became, I have to protect the computer, forget the monitor and the keyboard, just the box has to come with me when that house is on fire. There's other things that we all want to protect. We think about our identity and the pain that can cause us from people extracting value from that. And we think about our digital footprint. We talk about it at least. And this is everything that we leave behind us. We're doing it right now. The sensors in our pockets know that we are here and it's being shared around the world. Our habits, our purchases, our friends and family, who they are. Every app that you download that wants access to your contacts is sharing who your friends and family are with someone in the world. Some of us want to keep that private. All right, so we can put those two together and we can try to figure out where to focus our energy. Now, I said this was awareness for you. So I started by adding the employer category. Because some people worry about, is my employer Big Brother, and are they trying to spy on me? All right, so I'm the head of security for a publicly traded company. I don't have the time or interest in what you're doing in your personal life, to be quite honest with you. But I think you have a chance of keeping your private life separate and prevent me from knowing about it. But it's really, really hard. Here's how. You have to never check your personal mail on any of the company's assets or internet connections. You have to not view all of your wonderful photos from over the weekend on your computer or share them with people at work. You have to not be playing games on your phone connected to the company's network. If you can separate your personal life from the company's assets, then I will know nothing about you. I know that sounds really hard. I know I'm not very good at it myself. Another big takeaway you might see here is the digital footprint. I personally don't believe we can keep that safe from anybody today. I'm sorry to share that if your belief was different. It's incredibly difficult. Dr. Kaczynski from Stanford University has done some amazing research in this space. And he took data from all of the stuff that we've all given to social media platforms and these free applications that ask us questions about our lives or ask for permissions. And he mined it for data that's so powerful it can tell us more about ourselves than our friends and family. So when I think of that research, I think we can't really protect our digital footprint in the world today. And one of the groups that's leveraging that are the marketers. And those marketers, in the United States in particular, can buy and sell other information about us, our financial information. We store our photos on their servers, the cloud, right? What is another word for the cloud? Somebody else's computer. We give it to them. So they have access to all this information, which they use primarily to sell us more stuff. The other one is nation states. We worry about that because we hear it in the news all of the time. Now, I'm a citizen of the United States, and in practical reality, I can't save my data from them. They can get warrants, they can get subpoenas to collect my information. So I have to assume that ultimately they can gain access to my information. All right, so there's a really bright takeaway from this data, in this exercise. It's that there's two groups of people on here that we actually can keep our data safe from. And they're the people that are actually trying to hurt us directly, right? That's thieves and cyber criminals. They actually want to cause you harm, and you have a chance of stopping them. It's really not hard. Now, if you're worried about marketers, nation states, and your digital footprint, that's a different story. When you read those things in the news, those are items you have to talk to your political leaders and policymakers about. That's where you can help make a difference on that front. If you want to protect yourselves from thieves and cyber criminals, which are who I believe you have a chance of protecting yourself from today, I have a few steps. So, now that we know what's important to us, now that we know who we can possibly protect it from, let's talk about what we can do. Number one, passwords. I would love to stand up here and tell you passwords are dead, but they're not. And you all know they're not because you type them all day long. So it's very simple. Make them long to make them strong. Never reuse them. Use multi-factor authentication, and always change the default passwords. You've probably all heard this before. If you're thinking, this already sounds really hard, I've been using this one password across 27 sites my whole life, use a password manager. I use a password manager. It's wonderful. I know one really long password. I use multi-factor authentication to protect it. And it makes it really hard for me to reuse passwords, and it makes it really easy for me to make complex passwords. That's a pretty good deal. It also logs me into all the websites I visit faster than I could ever type them. It's kind of a no-brainer. Updates. Your car needs maintenance. Your house needs paint. Your computer needs updates as well. Now, when you're at home, if your computer's reasonably new, it's probably set to automatically get updates. But I'm asking you to take 2 minutes to go to the settings and check to make sure that's happening. When you go to buy your next mobile phone, ask the carrier, ask the manufacturer what their commitment is to providing updates and what their track record is. This is an area where we as consumers can help push that along. Now I'm going to put my IT hat on for just a moment when I talk about work computers. For those of you who work for a company who provides you a computer, the IT team pushes out patches. And we, of course, never force that reboot that's usually required for them to take effect, because we know if we did, it would happen during your most important presentation. So we rely on you to do that. So you always get a little message that pops up, right? Please reboot your computer when you get a chance. Just a couple of weeks ago, a worm spread the internet called the WannaCry. It mostly impacted organizations. And it did this because organizations have a lot of applications. They're usually a little slower to patch than home users because they're all set to auto-update. Now, as a professional in this space, I always see the graph. We've pushed the patch to this many machines, and this many are waiting to be rebooted. So there's always this gap. So on behalf of your IT team, please reboot as soon as you can when you see that request. They would appreciate it. Number 3 is encryption. Incredibly complex topic. We could talk about quantum encryption and what it'll do to the current standards, SSL, TLS, key length, government backdoors. There's all sorts of things we could talk about here. But it's very simple. If encryption is available to you, and it is on most modern operating systems, please turn it on. Have you ever seen that security video where a pickup truck in the night backs up to a bank, guy jumps out, runs a chain around the ATM machine, rips it off the wall of the building, and drives off into the darkness? He drives off to somewhere, to his shop. He takes his sweet time carving a hole into the ATM machine and extracts the money. Your computer's a little like this. If you have the really great password, and I break the window of your car and pull your backpack out of it with your computer in it, I have full access to all of your data. It's very simple. However, if you encrypt it, the only thing I have is your computer. And your computer's not even valuable enough that anyone gives you a cable lock for it anymore. It's probably worth a couple $100. So encryption is there to keep your data from being shared to others. I really hope no one in this room has ever been victim of ransomware. I sincerely hope no one has experienced a house fire and had to go through that experience. I really hope none of you have had a window broken out of your car and your belongings stolen. And I really hope none of you have ever been walking down the hallway to give that really important presentation and watched your laptop slip out of your hands and break onto the floor in front of you. I really hope none of these things have ever happened to you. But what I know is, if anyone in the room has this happen, they will tell you that they now back up their data. Failures happen. We should all make a backup. Now, if you're saying, listen, I sync everything I own to the cloud, I back it up in someone else's computer, that's great. Every once in a while, take it out of the cloud and make a copy that's not connected to the internet. You'll thank yourself one day. Lastly, and this one's a little tricky, we have to be aware. We need to slow down. The internet is coming at us really, really fast. When I go home and I check the mail, I go from the mailbox to the recycle bin before I get to the house. And at the recycle bin, I stand there, and I'm able to easily evaluate trash, not really going to save me hundreds of dollars, from my actual bill. I can tell, and we all do this practice. The internet is the same. when you're looking at your internet, when you're looking at your email, you have to decide, is this really something useful to me? Are they really going to save me? Am I clicking to places that maybe are not the ones I intended to go to? So my ask is that you slow down a little bit while we're clicking around the internet. So why does all this matter? A few months ago, there was a major denial of service attack that hit parts of the internet. One of the functions that it hit were companies that ran a service called DNS. It's kind of core to how the internet works. And this attack mostly came from consumer-grade security cameras that all had default passwords. And they all pointed their traffic at these DNS servers, which then fell over. And many businesses used these, and their services fell over, which means a lot of economic value was lost. And that was lost on all of our companies. You may remember it. You probably weren't able to go shopping online that day because you couldn't do your work anyway, and then you couldn't do your shopping. So it was kind of a frustrating day for a lot of people. But much more important than that, in 2005, Thomas Friedman taught us that the world was flat. He talked about these forces that were converging around the world to change things. And one of those was fiber optic cables, and how this expanse of fiber optic cables was going to change our world from round to flat and create much better economic prosperity for people around the world. But we don't live in that world anymore. We have been moving so quickly that we're far beyond that pace. This digital place that we live in today defies physical reference. To quote Morpheus to Neo, this digital world is the world that's been pulled over our eyes to blind us from the truth. And that truth is we sit here today and you can reach out and touch the people around you and shake hands and say hi to the people around you. But the reality is you're sharing this experience with the whole world. We're all here together. It's not just flat. It's not just a flat world. It's actually happening in one instance that we all share. It's not about my good neighborhood or your good neighborhood or this nation or that nation. We are all living a digital life that is highly connected together. You are one arm's length away from everyone in the world, and they are one arm's length away from you. You are one click to any location in the world, and likewise, they are one click to you. And the world isn't the one that I talked about earlier of black and white and good and bad and friend or foe. It's much more complicated than that. It's about the exchange of value. Some of that's economic value. Some of it's value about who we are and what we believe. And that's being traded around the world today. And there's no political party or system that can currently keep up with it. And where does that leave us? It leaves us as digital citizens in this world with an obligation to try to keep it moving along well for the greater good. Thank you.